Hey everybody, it's Mr. Wagstaff. Cool stuff to talk about today. So today we're finishing our unit in economic and personal finance. This is unit 7, finishing our unit on credit and debt. However, today we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the impact that giving back to your community is going to have in your life. I know it seems a little out of place here, credit and debt, but in this course, it's not a standalone unit, so we're going to put it here. Our next unit, Unit 8, our final unit, will be on critical consumerism, how not to get scammed. So this was the best place for it, and it's really important, and I think you'll like it. So let's go ahead and get started. So today, as we talk about the value that brings to you by you giving back to your community, we're going to start with a really big fancy word today that you may not have heard, or you've heard it in passing. I'm not really sure what it is. But the entire goal, what we're going to talk about today, is to improve your life by connecting with your community. We're going to talk about it. But the big fancy word I'm talking about is philanthropy, all right, which is giving stuff back to your community. It's a little different than charity, but philanthropy is about giving time, goods, and money to specific issues like education, health, civil rights, poverty, environment. It is a little different than charity, though. So charity, typically, if you're donating to charity, it's usually short-term fixes. You're donating a certain amount of money, a certain amount of dollars to things. And it's like, all right, I've contributed, I'm moving on, like a GoFundMe type thing. Philanthropy is more of you have bought into an idea and you're willing to use your resources for the greater good of whatever issue it is that you are fighting for. So it's social change, it's proactive, it's not like you're having to pay somebody to GoFundMe account for something that happens. And one of the examples I use today is no kill shelters for animals. So there's animal shelters and it costs a lot of money in order to keep animals alive in these shelters. If they get adopted, if they don't get adopted, they have to get put down. However, there are groups out there that will raise money in order to not have that happen. And if you contribute your time and effort and your free time to that, that would be a type of philanthropy as opposed to just contributing to like a GoFundMe account. Philanthropy it's the act of giving back to your community, and it really does objectively improve your life. In pretty much every research that they have done is getting involved with your community and giving back in something that you find necessary in your community is a great benefit in a multitude of facets that we'll get to later on today. But your question here is, in your own words, explain what philanthropy is. So pause me, answer that completely. We're moving on. All right, so let's talk about some types of philanthropy. Volunteerism. It's exactly what it sounds like. Volunteering your time to do something. And there's a million different ways that you could volunteer your time to do this, to better your life. These are people that, if you're like not a people person and you're like, no, I don't want to be around people, there's always tons of volunteer opportunities to go out and clean up parks and things like that they don't really have somebody paid to do. And that is very much needed at all times. If you do like people always volunteering at like YMCAs or at camps or something to be counselors and helping out the little kids, tons of that. So, and as I'm recording this, I just saw this a couple weeks ago, so it stuck in my mind. So the reason I'm giving you this example I'm getting ready to give you is purely not because this is the greatest example of all time, but I think it's a really neat example of how volunteering betters your life. All right. So I know this is going to seem like out of left field. So this is a guy named Dave Grohl. All right. So Dave Grohl. He is a famous musician. So Grohl was the drummer. Let me back up. Super famous musician I'm getting ready to talk about. All right. So Grohl here in the bottom left writing, top left picture, that's Grohl with Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain, lead singer of the 1990s band Nirvana, super huge band. Kurt Cobain passed away, so Nirvana obviously broke up. So Grohl was the drummer for the band Nirvana in the 90s. So he was already well known. That was a superstar band. When he left Nirvana, he went and created his own band called the Foo Fighters, which hopefully you've heard of them. If not, I feel really old. But they're still around. They pack massive venues. He is not the drummer. He's lead guitarist and lead singer. He's a very talented person for the Foo Fighters, who have been huge for a really long time. David Grohl's net worth, $330 million. All right, he's a rock star, internationally acclaimed. There's not a lot of like skeletons in his closet, not a whole bunch of negative. So this guy, you would think, has it all. David Grohl volunteering at a homeless shelter in 2023. While he has everything, he is still volunteering his time because that still gives him purpose and a connection to the community. This is interesting because you're like, oh, this is a photo op, he's in there. He's not. He actually does this apparently often, and because nobody recognizes him. He's not a super unique looking rock star, so he shows up to work and they're like, oh, we're so happy to have volunteers. And this just happened to be somebody that worked there. It was like, I'm pretty sure that's the lead singer of Foo Fighters here. That is contributing his time to those that are less fortunate. Volunteering really does get you, give you a sense of self-worth, of self-purpose, being able to contribute to your community. And even if you're a multi-millionaire rock star with international fame, it's still, clearly he's not going to do this unless it brings him some type of fulfillment. So volunteering absolutely is a benefit to you as a person, not just to who you're volunteering for. So question here is, what are some of the personal benefits of volunteering? So pause me, answer that completely. We're moving on. All right, so businesses' impact in a community. So businesses as well, as opposed to just individual people, businesses as well have a responsibility to the community, which just how people have a preference of contributing to the community helps them better. Businesses, which is a collection of people, do the same thing. So I saw this stat that 90% of small businesses believe that businesses have a role to play in supporting community organizations, and a lot do. I live in a neighborhood that has a pool swim team, and they go around the community and they ask businesses to donate to help fund the swim team. And businesses do it every year. They get like a banner on the fence. They're not actually going to benefit from that, but to be able to contribute back to the community really does get us a sense of belonging, and we value them, and it just benefits everybody as a collective whole when there is collective support for things in a smaller community. Other benefits that businesses have on the community is that they hire within that community. Obviously, unless you're traveling hours and hours away, you hire within that community. So businesses, they have a preference to create their businesses where they want to hire their people from. So hiring people is also a benefit that businesses have in the community, because you're hiring people, you're paying people and giving them their careers. There's also, on a larger scale, there's a corporate social responsibility in which corporations spend a lot of money to better their communities. Like Coca-Cola with, I think it's carbon emission with Coca-Cola. Tesla and Ford also carbon emissions. There's these huge corporations usually spend a lot of money for the social responsibility, kind of almost like worldwide. So whether you're a small business or larger business, it is very common for these businesses to take on a very necessary approach to bettering their communities that they work in. So the question here is, how can businesses support the development of thriving, sustainable communities? Like, what do businesses do that help these communities? So pause me. Answer that completely. We're moving on. All right, let's talk about nonprofits. We've mentioned these a couple times here in this course, but nonprofits are different than for-profit businesses, and nonprofits usually are very, very much part of a community. So if you are looking for somewhere to go volunteer at or to work for, find a nonprofit that has the mentality that you would share with them. Because a for-profit business is literally there for profit. Nonprofits doesn't mean they don't make money. Nonprofits mean they're here for like a social outcome, all right? That all of their money is going to try to improve or better some aspect that they support. So they still have money, but their number one goal isn't to make a profit. That's what for-profit, like McDonald's. McDonald's' main goal is to make a profit. They're not out here because they really feel like in their hearts people should eat cheeseburgers. A nonprofit, while they have donations and stuff like that, all of their proceeds go to trying to helping their social cause. And here's a good example. This is from Fayetteville, North Carolina, this is a nonprofit that has an animal shelter. So when these animals get dropped off at these shelters, these animals, they desperately try to get them adopted. It is a no-kill shelter. It means no matter what happens, they're not going to kill these animals because they don't want to. However, some animals don't get adopted, and they have to basically keep these animals for the duration of their entire lives, which is really expensive. So nonprofits need donations, and they need workers to come show up and help with this. So this is a nonprofit, but they have a lot of money. They probably have to pay some full-time employees to manage the books and things like that. But if this is something that you're interested in working with animals, in order to give back to the community, finding things like this in your local community, absolutely, they would love to have your volunteer abilities to show up and help them with that. So the question here is, what is the main difference between a nonprofit and a for-profit organization? So pause me, answer that completely. We're moving on. All right, so why do all of this stuff? All right, what's the purpose of giving our time? So, and this isn't just make-believe. This isn't something that we tell you in like self-fulfilling prophecy. We say this and hope this happens. This is psychological evidence and completely documented results of this. When you get involved in your community, there is a stronger sense of purpose in your own life, in your job and everything else. There's more to life than just the forest that you're in. You can now step back and see the rest of everything, and it gives you a greater sense of purpose of what you're supposed to be doing in life, and more value to what you already are doing. There's a lot of personal growth. Sometimes you're volunteering and you're going to go outside your comfort zone, which is not fun for anybody, but then you get comfortable in this new uncomfortableness, and you're no longer uncomfortable, and now you have just grown, and there's more areas of life that you are now comfortable in, and you can keep expanding. That personal growth does nothing but just open up doors for you in a variety of different ways in your career, in your life, in your community. Personal growth, there is no downside to personal growth. And contributing to your community is a primary way of gaining personal growth. It improves your mental health. So this very much of taking a step back, having a sense of purpose, that when you go and you contribute to your community and you are giving your time and effort without needing something in response, is wildly beneficial to your mental health. It's how humans are designed. We are social creatures. To not have all the pressures of bosses or finances and things like that, just out doing something good for people because you care and they appreciate you because you care, does wonders for your mental health. So it does drastically help a mental health and get a better perspective on life. It also expands your network. So we talked about networking in a previous course or a previous unit, that the amount of people you get to know by doing this And when they meet you and they get to know you while you're volunteering, that paints you in nothing but a positive light. And they know people, the amount of doors that open up to you when you put yourself out here to do positive for other people without expecting things in return is cataclysmic. So at this expansion network, you get to know new people, new friends, new people that have the same hobbies as you, the same interests as you. Very, very, very important to expand your network here, volunteering and contributing to a society. One of the things that can't be understated is that it gives you a better appreciation and understanding of your community. When you contribute your time and effort to the community, you realize like what the strengths and weaknesses of your community are, and you can start deciding where you want to focus your efforts on, regardless of what you are currently contributing your time to. If it's to the dogs, all right, and you're like, okay, I'm going to contribute my time to this no-kill shelter, but then you realize by working there that there just aren't any parks, or the parks that do exist are really dirty. There's nowhere for dogs to go. And you can start changing your focus on your volunteering on fixing up parks, pushing for the local city council to create dog parks and things like that. So understanding your community is also a pivotal part of giving your time. So the question here is, how can volunteering your time benefit individuals? That specifically means you. How can volunteering your time to help other people actually benefit you? So answer that completely. I know it's a short one today, but that's what I got. And that's the end of this unit. And I'll see you guys next unit for critical consumerism. See you next time.